Hello, everybody, and welcome on in. The NFL draft is a few months away, but I want to get this started early and talking about some draft prospects. No particular order in terms of my ranking of these prospects. I want to give some quick thoughts on them, so let's dive right into it. All right, so this is me from the future while I'm editing this. As I'm going through, I'm realizing I'm probably underselling a ton of the guys I'm talking about in this video. Just personally, I'm not very high on this QB class, but even then, I kind of feel like I'm being kind of harsh with some of these. I still feel like these are not out of the realm of possibility, but definitely higher is possible for pretty much most of the guys I'm talking about. But yeah, just keep that in mind. This is a pretty harsh expectations for where these guys would be drafted, especially after looking through some mock drafts for next week's draft prospect stuff. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Enjoy. Everyone's going to be talking about Fernando Mendoza, so I'm going to skip that and go straight into Ty Simpson. Had a pretty solid season, leading Bama to a college football playoff bid and the SEC championship. Wasn't asked to do a ton this season though, had 28 touchdown passes while throwing for just over 3,500 yards. Both did rank within the top 15 in the nation. Gonna be probably leaning towards a day two pick, as will most of these quarterbacks in this class. This feels like a pretty weak class all around, pretty similar to the Kenny Pickett draft in 2022. I don't really see a ton of these guys going first round. So thus, most of them are going to fall probably day two, day three. Then Ty Simpson is going to be one of those. A team's going to take a flyer on him just to see how he can develop. Alabama quarterbacks kind of have a sour taste in the mouth of most people just because of the track record over the past 20 or so years with them. None have really stood out to be the guy for a team. The closest was Tua Tagovailoa, and he's going to be moving on from the Dolphins after this year. So we'll see how he plays out. Don't really have any expectations for it though. Kind of a potential starter that's ends up being pretty solid, but more likely going to be a really, really good backup across the league. So again, we'll see. It really does depend on the team that drafts him, as will most of these quarterbacks. His development is going to be key to get a good quarterback in this class. And there's a handful of teams out there that does not do great at developing quarterbacks. So we shall see. But again, I have roughly a day two spot for Ty Simpson. All right, next, let's talk about Carson Beck. He helped Miami get to a national championship appearance for the first time in decades and made some very nice plays throughout that college football playoff run as well, especially the game-winning drive against Ole Miss. Though during the regular season, he did have some bad performances, the main one being against Louisville, where he threw 4 interceptions and really looked rough in that loss. Also against Florida early on in the season, he threw an interception, no touchdowns. Looked a bit mad in that game, still got the win, but this was a Miami team that was really an all-around effort, and Carson Beck just had to be a game manager, and I can expect similar stuff in the NFL. Like most quarterbacks, going to need development if he's going to do really anything special in the league. I do see him being more of that true backup role, though, and him being that day three type of guy. But though Carson Beck definitely has the quality, it's just the development's gonna have to be exceptional development for him to truly hit his ceiling. And I just don't see a lot of teams giving him that type of development. So that's probably gonna be closer to what like a mid ceiling for him, which would be a really good backup. But just all around, don't have too much expectations for him. As again, most of these quarterbacks, I would be shocked to see them be a true superstar quarterback in the league. No, I could see some of them really blossoming into being stars or even really good players. Carson Beck, though, probably not really one of them, though time will tell. Again, day three is roughly where I expect him to go. All right, I want to bring up this next one because before the season, he was a really highly touted prospect, and that's Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. He was the Senior Bowl MVP this year. Though he did not play particularly great in the Senior Bowl, he still got those odds. He still got that mention, so might as well mention it here as well. Got hurt back in November, so I'm expecting him to be ready for rookie minicamp and for the offseason programming, which could definitely help him out there. Again, before the season, was definitely a topper prospect, though he had a very rough season out of LSU, as did LSU as a whole, and now it's probably going to be a day three pick all around. A team is going to take a flyer on him just because of what he could be and what was expected from him before the season. Though, will he actually live up to all that hype? Doubt it, but again, most of these quarterbacks, if they get the right development and they get the right team around them, they could. Could also be a UDFA, though I think that's more so on the extreme case of things. I think he's going to sit in probably a 6th or 7th round and be that kind of like Skylar Thompson type of pick where he showed flashes and the team's going to see if they can hone in on those flashes and go from there. But still, Garrett Nussmeier is someone that disappointed in the regular season. Now gonna be a potential steal. Do probably have his ceiling more so at that lower tier backup level, but still someone that you can give a game or two during in the season and get decent enough results while you just need to get the starter healthy. We'll see. Not a whole lot of expectations for him either. But yeah, Garrett Nussmeier again, probably more so going to be like a 6th, 7th round pick. But UDFA is not out of the realm of possibility. All right, so now let's start to get fun with some of these quarterbacks. Haynes King from Georgia Tech. He was really fun to watch in college, has the athleticism, has the mobility to be a pretty solid quarterback. He has the grit to him as well. He can take a beating and still keep going. Though he is not the greatest of passers, he was not asked to pass the ball pretty much at all at Georgia Tech. Only had about 14 touchdowns and 7 interceptions through the air. Definitely someone where he's up for a position change, if anything, if he makes the trip. Similar to Felipe Franks, who when he went to Atlanta and the Falcons, he switched to tight end. I could see a similar thing here for Haynes King, though we'll see how that plays out. Do expect him to be a UDFA, though also just because of how much grit and how much fun he was, I could see a team taking a flyer in the 7th round with them. But my real expectation, if he wants to keep on being a professional quarterback, I have more so expect to see him in the spring in the UFL and kind of being that next spring king from what Luis Perez was for the now Dallas Renegades. But at the same time, he's going to probably get a training camp invite to some degree and just be able to see what he can do there. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes a shot at the position change, though. That is a weird thing to really be talking about just because of how unlikely it is, because of how little quarterbacks have done that. But still, just someone that was really fun to watch. Wanted to give a mention here. Because again, these 5 guys I'm listing by no means what I think are the best 5 in the class. Just guys that I feel like deserve a little bit of a mention for how much work they put into college, and Haynes King is one of them. So we'll see, but I do expect a UDFA more likely than not. The final name, a Heisman finalist, Diego Pavia. He really turned around Vanderbilt football throughout the past 2 years in college, but he was listed very differently in college than what he measured up as at the Senior Bowl. I think he was only listed about 5'9" after the Senior Bowl measurements. That is vastly different from the roughly 6 foot that he was listed at Vanderbilt. That's going to massively hurt his draft stock. A 5'9" quarterback does not bode well for success, though we shall see. There is some smaller quarterbacks in the league, but still 5'9" I think would be the smallest of a starting quarterback. So I don't really see him get into that. Does have a very similar skill set to Haynes King, though he's much better of a passer. He really does have an arm to him, and thus that's why he was a Heisman finalist. And also similar to Haynes King, was really fun to watch in college. Definitely someone that I think the team will be more likely to take a flyer on at the quarterback position than looking for him to make a position change. In large part because there's not a lot of positions you could change Diego Pavia to. Maybe he could be a running back, but for the most part, at that roughly 5'9" height, he's either going to be a quarterback in the NFL or he's going to have to learn a different professional league. So I could see him sort of being like a rival to Haynes King in the UFL. I think that could be really fun. He's Jordan Teamu to Haynes King, Luis Perez, or Flip, whatever. But the team's going to be more likely to take a flyer on him. He's a Heisman finalist. Just the Heisman finalist, the amount of attention he got in college. There's a reason why Diego Pavia has been one of the bigger names with the past 2 years, and just because of just how fun he's been to watch. Though making that transition into the NFL is going to be really tough for someone of his stature. So we shall see. I do expect him to get drafted, though, and not be a UDFA just because he has the Heisman finalist tag to him. So we'll see where he goes. No real expectations. But yep, those are my thoughts on Diego Pavia. All right, so quick thoughts. Again, just 5 relatively random names from the upcoming QB draft class. Not a ranking by any mean, not a top order by any mean. Just wanted to give my quick thoughts on 5 guys as we entered the draft stage of things. Obviously, free agency is first, but want to get ahead on the draft stuff as well. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.